Depending on when you're seeing this, tariffs are, or have already, or maybe will be, or maybe won't be in place on our North American neighbors, Mexico and Canada. The idea is that tariffs would make the production and import of goods from those countries more expensive, forcing companies to move production to the US. Local jobs, local spending, good for the economy, right? But I'm not sure everyone realizes just how many pieces of the US auto market come from Mexico. Ford, Chevy, GMC, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and Chrysler all make vehicles in Mexico. And it's not just those US automakers. Toyota, Honda, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Nissan, Mazda, Kia, Audi, and BMW all make cars in Mexico too, and a lot of them specifically for the US market. So let's look at exactly who makes what where, and what's most likely to happen if they can't make those there anymore. We'll start by looking at Stellantis as a prime example of this. 100% of the Ram heavy-duty lineup of pickup trucks is built in Mexico. The 2500 all the way up to the 5500, along with other big truck products, are built at the Saltillo truck assembly plant. The straight-six diesel engines are built by Cummins in Indiana, but the 6.4-liter gas V8s, well, those are built in Mexico as well. Same with the 5.7-liter V8 that's under the hood of the Durango, and whatever else Stellantis is going to stick it in now that its V8-hating CEO was given the boot. So too is the much-hyped 3-liter twin-turbo Hurricane straight-six engine that's found in the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, the new Dodge Charger, Ram trucks, and the Ram ProMaster vans. In fact, the whole ProMaster line is built at Saltillo Van Assembly, right next door to the engine plant. And while those vehicles themselves are assembled in the US, we'll see if they can dodge tariffs on importing their engines. God, why did we do that? Stellantis also makes the 3.6-liter Pentastar V6, that legendary lump, in Mexico at the Saltillo South engine plant. The 3.6 powers the Grand Cherokee, the Jeep Gladiator, the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid, and that classic icon of American off-road culture, the Wrangler. Outside of the Saltillo area, Jeep also makes the Compass at its assembly plant in Toluca, Mexico, as well as the electric Wagoneer S. That is a lot of cross-border production. So how did we end up here? Well, the way the US automotive industry currently operates is based on years and years of free trade with Mexico and Canada. According to the State Department, trade between Canada and the US totaled $762 billion in 2024. That's almost $200 billion more than trade between the US and China. But trade with Mexico is even bigger, $839 billion worth of trade in 2024. This all really traces back to when America and our neighbors to the north and south got together in the early 1990s and formed the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. NAFTA essentially turned the three countries into one as far as manufacturing was concerned. A company could build something in Canada and export it to Mexico without a tariff. I'm not going to get into whether it was good or bad. It was both, by the way. But it changed the economies of all three countries forever. In particular, it sparked a massive expansion of car manufacturing in Mexico because American automakers quickly realized they could set up factories south of the border, pay workers a lot less, and ship the cars back north as easily as if they were rolling out of Detroit. As long as 62.5% of a car's components came from the US, Mexico, or Canada, they were golden. And it wasn't just American automakers. The Germans, the Japanese, the Koreans, almost every major company started building up in Mexico for cheap access to the American market. And in recent years, it's been the Chinese EV companies trying to gain a foothold. So in 2020, the first Trump administration replaced NAFTA with the new US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. This time, 75% of a car's parts needed to be from the three countries to qualify for a tariff waiver. Alright, back to the list with a big one, General Motors. For starters, the Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra pickups are both made at General Motors' Silao plant in Mexico, in addition to 3 factories in the US. And not just a few of them. In 2024, over 360,000 units of those 2 trucks were made in Mexico and shipped to the United States. Now, GM has said they could shift some production to their Fort Wayne plant in Indiana to avoid those tariffs, but that can't happen overnight. Also built in Mexico are the Equinox SUV, as well as the upscale GMC version, the Terrain, and so is the Equinox EV, the Blazer EV, and the standard Blazer. There's a number of Cadillacs that have been built in Mexico in the past, and the new Optic EV will be the latest one. No surprise here, since it shares a platform with those other GM EVs. And while the CT5 sedan isn't assembled south of the border, Nearly half of its parts come from Mexico. In 2022, Ford received a ton of praise for the Maverick being a cheap, entry-level trucklet that gave people as much hauling capability as they actually needed. With a launch MSRP of less than $20,000, it almost single-handedly revived the US compact pickup market. So the Bronco Sport and the Maverick are built at Ford's Hermosillo plant, and a 25% increase in costs would make the Maverick more expensive than its nearest competitor, the Hyundai Santa Cruz, which is built in Alabama. The Mustang Mach-E, Ford's all-electric SUV, also a relatively affordable option from the automaker, well, it's built at the Cuautitlán assembly plant in Mexico. Late last year, Ford announced plans to invest nearly $300 million in its Irapuato plant in the country, where they plan on building the power unit for the Mach-E. Those plans could change. Now is probably a good time to talk about the estimated cost of moving vehicle production from Mexico to the United States. With these tariffs, there are a lot of ways an automaker could respond. They could straight up pay the tariff and eat their losses, they could pay it and pass the cost along to buyers like you and me, or they could attempt to wait out the tariffs, place a hold on cars made in the affected countries, and see what happens in 4 years. That's a long time to wait on something already in production, but it might be cheaper than paying tariffs. Maybe they could move production to a factory in the United States. After all, that's the whole point of this, right? Moving production to a new factory altogether would take a significant amount of time, however, and while building a new factory, the automaker would still be charging a premium for their cars. It's also worth noting that the labor to build a vehicle in Mexico can cost as much as 90% less than building a car in the US. So an automaker might do the math and decide it's worth their time and money to just keep building in Mexico rather than move production to the US. Whatever decision automakers go with, estimates are that the immediate cost would be somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000 per car to pay for the tariffs. And that's every car. Because whether automakers decide to pay the tariffs or move manufacturing to the US, they're still likely to amortize the cost of that decision across their entire lineup. So you probably won't see a $20,000 increase on an $80,000 vehicle if that's the only thing an automaker makes in Mexico. They just spread out the cost increase to soften the blow. Speaking of softening the blow, I need some coffee. I've been counting on coffee to wake me up my entire adult life. But lately, it's more than just something to force my eyes open since I started adding a scoop of the good stuff. The good stuff is a coffee supplement to replace creamers and sugar from 4Wellness, a functional nutrition brand co-founded by golf champion Phil Mickelson. Right now, I'm drinking the Focus Blend, which is packed with, well, good stuff like L-theanine, MCTs, collagen, and theobromine to lower inflammation, curb cravings, and deliver all-day mental clarity and focus without the usual caffeine crash. And it tastes great too. I usually take my coffee black because I'm an adult, but the good stuff adds a delicious sugar-free mocha flavor to whatever brew I'm drinking. Just stir it in, and it's keto, Whole30, and intermittent fasting approved. 4Wellness subscribers enjoy 25% off the single purchase price for life, with the option to save up to 30% on double subscriptions. New subscribers to the Good Stuff Focus also receive a free welcome kit with their first order, either a ceramic canister and metal scoop that looks great on your kitchen counter, or Phil's favorite tumbler, perfect for busy days. Save 25% with your subscription. Just click the link in the description, use my code THEDRIVE for free shipping on your first order. All right. Let's get back to the list. We gotta speed this up. Audi makes the Q5, their midsize SUV, in San Jose, Chiapa, Mexico. The long wheelbase Q5L isn't made in Mexico, so maybe it'll be easier to just get... Oh, wait, it's made in China. Never mind. It's worth mentioning that some people assume that manufacturing in Mexico is of lower quality. And if your understanding of Mexico comes from watching Narcos, I could see how you got there. But BMW doesn't agree with you. The M2 is built exclusively in Mexico, not Germany. And whatever you think of the styling, it's still a pretty high quality machine. BMW's San Luis Potosi plant makes the M2 along with the 2 Series Coupe and the 3 Series sedan to ship all over the world. And it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for them to just drop a couple of those models from the US for a while. At the Honda de Mexico Celaya plant, they make the HR-V as well as their CVT transmissions. That same factory will soon start building the new Acura ADX compact crossover, which is intended to be the brand's entry-level model. And the Honda Prologue, which was co-developed with GM, is made on those same Mexican assembly lines as the GM EVs I mentioned earlier. Moving existing production lines from Mexico to the US would be extremely complex, but it's a lot simpler if things are still in the planning stages, like the Civic Hybrid, which Honda launched last year to great fanfare. We named it our car of the year. Honda was planning to build it in Mexico to keep the car affordable, but earlier this month, Reuters reported that the automaker had decided to move production to its Indiana plant to get ahead of any tariffs. Mazda makes quite a few cars in Japan, but they also make a few in Mexico for the US market. The Mazda 3, their compact Civic competitor, is built in Mexico, as is the CX-30. Kia only builds one car in Mexico, the K4. I still think that's a really dumb name. This one is small, economical, and its appeal mainly comes from its starting price, which is true of all economy cars. You don't buy them because they're great, you buy them because they're great values. The K4 is relatively new too, so this would be a big hit right out of the gates. But this isn't the first time the US has been toying with 25% tariffs on the auto industry. In fact, the last time we did, the light truck market changed forever. Back in the 1960s, Europe put tariffs on imported chicken from the United States. Long story. To clap back, the US put a 25% tariff on imported potato starch, brandy, and light pickup trucks. The big three. That tariff still exists today, and it's why the American truck market is completely different from the rest of the world. We don't get cool things like the two-door compact pickup from Volkswagen or the legendary Toyota Hilux, and it's because of the chicken tax. Instead, we have, and are known for, the biggest trucks a driver can buy. In biology, there's a phenomenon called island gigantism, where a species that is cut off from the mainland will just grow bigger and bigger due to a lack of predators. Sound familiar? Okay, the causes are different and so is the outcome, but it's not every day I get to use my biology AA. Let me have this. Lots of automakers try to get around the chicken tax in various ways, but it shapes the face of the American auto industry, and there's no reason to believe new tariffs would be any less impactful. Speaking of things shaped by the chicken tax, let's talk Toyota. Ever seen a Toyota Tacoma with an American flag on it? Well, the appropriately nicknamed Taco is now made exclusively in Mexico at two separate plants, Baja California and Guanajuato. The Tacoma is sold in a few other countries, but it's mostly a US truck. Places outside the Americas generally get the smaller and more durable Hilux. Toyota's most popular vehicle and the best-selling non-pickup badge in the United States, the RAV4, is built in Canada. The regular versions, at least. The hybrid Prime model is built in Kentucky. But if tariffs hit and Toyota doesn't shuffle the deck, the RAV4 could suddenly cost the same as a Lexus. Except, Lexus builds both the RX and the NX in Canada too, at the Cambridge, Ontario plants. Alright, back to Mexico again. Another German automaker makes the list, Mercedes. They make plenty of their cars in Germany and elsewhere around the world, of course, but the GLB SUV is made in Mexico. So that cheap Nissan Versa you've been eyeing for your teenager when they reach driving age, it's built in Mexico. The Sentra is too, a compact sedan that's priced just a bit above the Versa. The small Nissan Kicks, also built at the same Aguascalientes plant as the Sentra and the Versa. Nissan doesn't save its luxury models for other countries either. The Infiniti QX50 SUV is built in Mexico, as is the QX55, though both are supposed to end production later this year. While it's possible that you're like me and fondly remember the Das Auto ads from the folks over at VW, it might be better to think of it as El Auto when it comes to these models. Volkswagen makes their Jetta at their plant in Puebla, along with the Tiguan and the Taos. Tesla was planning on building a gigafactory in Mexico. Mexican officials have said that Tesla got $135 million in incentives to build the plant there. But for some reason, those plans have stalled. Oh yeah, that's right. Elon said uncertainty around tariffs meant it was impractical to build a plant there. If you thought car manufacturing was the company is based here, so that's where they make cars kind of operation, it's clearly worth revisiting that assumption. Pretty much every major automaker has a presence in multiple countries around the world, and a large number of them make at least one vehicle in Mexico. When you add up all the units built in Mexico and shipped to the United States in 2024 alone, it's over 2.7 million cars. That is about 17% of all new cars and trucks sold in the US last year. The modern auto industry has formed around the idea of free trade, and whatever the reason for disrupting that, tariffs will dramatically affect the entire auto market in the United States, no matter who you buy your next car from. But right now, we honestly don't know how this is all going to shake out. We just know what hangs in the balance. That's it for me. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Check out thedrive.com where we'll have the latest news on tariffs and manufacturing as this whole situation develops. And as always, I'll see you in 2 weeks with the next one. Thanks for watching.